get to share not just a success story, but I get to share a woman that is successful and really taking her speaking empire to a whole nother level. So I want to introduce to many of you, and I would say more so really reintroduce this new and improved woman and woman of faith, Dr. Saundra Dalton-Smith. Hello, thank you for being here today with me.
Hey, excited to get a chance to talk with you.
I know. You know, we're gonna do this girl chat, right? It's gonna girl chat, but I want to talk about I want you to give folks just a peek inside of your world. Tell us a little about who you are, where you live, where you reside, and some of the things that are going on that were going on even before you started this whole thing about speaking. But before you get there, let me say this. I decided to do this interview with Dr. Saundra because of some of the things that she was doing long before we met. And I think we've been like Facebook friends for a while through some mutual people. And then you got the opportunity to hear me speak. And I made this offer about, you know, women speaking are rich and what it was really going to be about. And so for those of you that are watching this is what I ask you not to do. Don't think that just because these degrees in here with the MDs and the PhDs and all of that are behind, you're going to really hear our story of the pull and the passion that we have to help other people, especially with a mic in our hand. So I'm going to be quiet and let you kind of share with us who you are and where you reside in this whole world of speaking for you.
Yes, well, I am an internal medicine physician. I've been practicing for about 20 years. 2011, I felt this pull to write a book. I felt like my medical practice had gotten to a point where I could help so many people one-on-one, but I really felt like what I had to share needed to be shared in a larger way. So that's when I wrote my first book. And that's when I first started speaking in 2011. I always tell people my first speaking event was set up by my publisher. I had never spoken before, and my very first audience was 600 people. So talk about being thrown kind of into the fire. But honestly, when I was, it was something I always had been afraid to do. But once I was there, I knew I was meant to do it. I say speakers know they're speakers because once the mic's in their hand, it's like, this feels right. And so that's how it was. It felt right. And so from that point on, I always looked at the speaking as kind of this extra thing that I do. And I enjoyed it because it helped me to get my books and messages out there. And I'm in the Birmingham area, but I travel all over the world to speak. And I've written 3 total books so far. And with each book, I'm always trying to kind of tweak messages to be able to make speaking topics out of them.
Right.
And so that's been a big part of it for me. It's just kind of that whole growth and progress of how do I reach more people to help them be their best self. My entire kind of premises is based on, and my website's even titled, I Choose My Best Life, helping people understand the choices that they have that lead to their best life, particularly those who are professionals. A lot of my talking is done with corporations and with women's conferences and business leaders, because so often people get to that place of success and they don't feel good in the life that they built. And I believe the life you build should feel good, not just look good. We have a lot of Instagram success stories where, you know, it looks so good, but they're not happy, they're not enjoying it. And so that's the message I like to take out to people, kind of a whole health and wellness situation, kind of getting them back to a place of their best life.
Yeah. So what took place? So you've been out there speaking 2011, and I can recall, I'll never forget this whispering in my ear. And you said, oh, I was just doing it as a hobby. It was kind of like pastime. What changed from that moment till now?
Well, when I started the whole thing, you know, nothing I've ever wanted to do other than to be a physician. And I love practicing medicine, and I've been doing it for over 20 years, but I never really could see. And even when I felt like, you know, in my spirit, I was getting pulled to do something different, that season had come to an end, I couldn't see how my life could not exist without having that crutch, is what it ended up being, that stability of that. And so I met you for the first time. Well, I already knew who you were. Yeah, I was following you and kind of looking at a lot of your videos and loved everything that you were sharing. But I really got a chance to kind of, what I would say, see your heart for the first time at the Success Women's Conference 2019 that they had in Biloxi. And I was sitting there during your session. And when you were talking during that section, you made a comment that just really resonated with me. You said, you may not come from a wealthy family, but let a wealthy family come from you. Yeah. And, you know, as someone who, my faith belief is as a Christian, I'd always looked at, you know, success as this thing where, you know, I make good money as a physician. And so I felt like that was okay. But I felt like even the thought concept, the mindset of being able to support myself through speaking and books, something about it didn't feel right. Right. And then just kind of at that moment, I just felt this pull that there was something that you knew, something you had, that you already had realized that I didn't quite understand. And I needed to be under that level of teaching to really go where I felt like God was pulling me to. And so that was part of it. And for the biggest part for me was really getting to that stage of just being willing to be open to be teachable.
Yeah, for sure.
Not thinking that I know it all. Like you said, when you have an MD and PhD, and whether you do or don't, a lot of us, we feel like we already know it all. And I spent a lot of time trying to do some of this by myself. And I just really felt like that step of faith was needed if I was ever going to get to any kind of next level.
You know, I remember in one of the sessions that we had, and you were so excited. You shared this win of, you know, Dr. Sonia, I've been doing this just like, again, I keep going back. It was a hobby. You mean to tell me I can go back? Because that's exactly what you did. You kind of went back to some of those events because you were saying before, well, they didn't pay my fee. So I kind of brushed it off. And now you learned something so valuable. What was that mind shift that took place for you, that aha moment just to snap right there for you?
Well, I think for me, I had always looked at it as, if you couldn't pay my speaking fee, you know, then I wasn't coming. You know, I never really, you know, after speaking from 2011 up to now, my speaking fee had gradually increased. You know, I started off with the $500 in a chicken dinner to, you know, where you're getting paid. You know what I'm talking about? I mean, the chicken dinner and just a couple of dollars.
The fruit basket. The fruit basket is my favorite.
Fruit basket. Oh, wow. So, yeah. So I started off with that, and those were great, you know, in the beginning, because I didn't know what I was doing. But then after you get some training and some education, you invest in speaking coaches, and you get to a point where you feel like you're giving people high quality, you expect a little bit more to compensate for your time. And so I got into the place where, no, if you couldn't pay for my speaking fee, and I was under agencies and all sorts of things. So if you couldn't pay for that fee, I wasn't coming. And one of the things you really talked about and stressed is that it's not just about the upfront fee, but especially when you have something you can teach people, especially when you know that there's something that you can give them to help make their life better. And you're not offering them a way of continuing with you, not just the, you know, 20, 30, 60 minutes that you're delivering high content on the stage, but for that they can go to that deeper level. That really convicted me, to be honest, first of all. And plus it made me see that I was missing opportunities. So big stages I'd said no to because they didn't pay me up front, were big stages where their people needed what I had to offer. And I just didn't have the mindset that, first of all, that this is a business, not a hobby. And that I need to be able to have something else to offer them, not just my book. The book's good, but not just the book, because some people need a deeper level. Some people need to really go deep with you to get what they need so that they can succeed.
And, you know, when you say all that, these moments I get so excited about for women like yourself and the women that are out there that really need this understanding. Because let's be honest, a majority of the time, you alluded to it, we think we can do this on our own, or we do what I was doing at the beginning. Let me just Google this. And Google gives you all of these ways to be a profitable female speaker. And it was more so at that moment, I said, there's a way. And when I said that, even at Success Conference and when I travel the world speaking, if you didn't come from a wealthy family, let a wealthy family come from you. That is like embedded in my heart now, because I don't know any other way. And I've tried those other ways. I've tried real estate. I've tried all these other things. I've had a restaurant. I had all of that. But there's no other place where you can go into a room in 60 minutes and be able not just get a speaking fee, but be able to serve people at a much deeper level when you're done. It was hands down. So it wasn't just at the beginning, let's be honest, Dr. Saundra, it was about the money. Oh my gosh.
Oh yeah.
Okay. It was about the money. And now it's like, there is this whole, and I call it the new rich, and people kind of get mad. Why do you call it the new rich? Because it's a hidden secret, especially for women that look like us. It's not just the education, because you really just think about it. All of this education that we have, and then we go back and really invest at a higher level, you get to see just the minds of people being transformed because of the experience and the knowledge that you have. But you get to work with some selective group of people that you know that could change the world based on you just saying, hey, I want to help you. I want to help you get to your next level, and we pass it on. And this is what I truly mean about women helping other women. But a lot of times people think, can I do this for free? Can you talk to a woman that's out there that made a decision? Because I still laugh at you walking by, you were flying by. And I was talking to a group of women that were enrolling in the program. And you're like, I'll be back. Give me that form. Da, da, da. I'm going to go here. And you came back. You didn't really ask many questions. You just signed here. You swiped, and you were on your way and just seeing where you are now. Kind of talk to us about not necessarily the price point for the investment, because for some, it's like, oh, that's like $100. And for some, like, oh my gosh, that's $1 million because of the mindset. But kind of talk to us about when you made that decision in that room, what you were going to do next.
Yeah, when like I said, when you were speaking, I had made up my decision regardless of what price point you threw out.
Mm-hmm.
You could have said just about anything, because for me, I really felt a connection. I felt like I know this is what I need next. Mm-hmm. And I think what happens oftentimes, and what happened to me, honestly, in the beginning, when I met other people who were saying, doing teachers and presenting products, the second the cost flew out their mouth, everything in me was like, whoop, hold up. Okay. I don't have that money right now. I don't have those finances. I'm not able to do that. What it changed for me was, I got to the point where I knew that was something I was going to have to overcome.
Yeah.
Because I've been dealing with for a long time, kind of a poverty mindset. Money's hard to come by. You've got to work hard for money to, to get money. That, everybody can't be a millionaire. All of these different limiting
and this is coming out of the mouth of the MD, right? This is coming out of the
I've been making 6 figures for years. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, that's the physician salary. I've been making that for years. Right. And so still, it wasn't a money issue, it was a mind issue. Yeah. I mean, if nothing else, that should tell you that.
Yes.
I'm making 6 figures and I'm still thinking that. It was a mind issue. It was a mental block, a limiting thought pattern that was driving all of my decisions. And so I've been starting to work through that. And when you made that offer, you just kind of pulled everybody. You said, everybody who wants to ask questions, come with me and we're going to discuss it. Well, as I told you, I had my own talk I had to give. I'm a speaker. I was here to speak. So I had my own talk to give right after that. So I rushed off to my room, did my talk, entertained my team that was there, sold books, which is what that particular talk was about. Sold books. And after I'd done all of that, came back and found that we're kind of finishing up, but you were still surrounded by a bunch of people. And honestly, I knew I didn't have any questions to ask. All I wanted was to get connected. Right. I knew that there was something you had to teach that I didn't know. Wow. And I just needed to get connected. And so I think the barrier for a lot of people is just understanding when you've reached the limits of what you can do by yourself. You can go far by yourself, but just because you can go far doesn't mean you can go to the height of where you can go.
Yes, for sure.
And I think sometimes because it's good, I'd gotten to a place of success, as some people say, where it was good. I was selling books. I had traditional publishers. I had book deals. I was on TV and all this stuff. So, I felt like I got to a level of success, but I still needed someone to help me with my mindset on the going to the next level. Wow. Can I let go of a good thing to go to a better thing? Wow. And I think sometimes we don't. We get so caught up on the good, we're not willing to go to best because we're afraid. Because we haven't dealt with all that stuff in our head. And so we're just stuck. And stuck's a bad place. Even if it's a good thing you're stuck in, it's a bad place because you're really not living to your fullest.
It is. And it's just, thank you so much for being transparent, because a lot of times people think, because I know somebody watching this is thinking, well, she's an MD, she can do this and she can afford that. And you are honestly saying, hey, I had to deal with my own mindset. So imagine someone who is looking at their account, especially saying they want a 6-figure business. When we come to this place, and I talk to women all the time, I want a 6-figure business. I want to scale my business when they learn what scaling is. Or I want 7 figures. Oh, I want to make $50,000 a month. And I too went through that. And just being able to release that good thing, which we call money, and really investing in ourselves is the most powerful thing, I think, as women that we could ever do, especially for our businesses. And so as you shifted your mindset, this is not a hobby anymore. This is a business. I need some help. I heard Dr. Saundra, and now I'm ready. What has transformed, not just the mindset part of the money, what has happened in your speaking business since then? Because now it's a business for sure.
Yeah, it's just my whole, everything's changed. Yesterday was my, some people call it a retirement from clinical medicine. I call it a refocusing on where I'm going at this point. But I hung up my white coat, so to speak, and now my attention is focusing on basically helping people on a greater scale. I helped a lot of people in my area one-on-one, but I can help a whole lot more people with what I'm doing with the speaking and with the coaching and with the group coaching and the sessions and all the different, and the podcasting and all the different stuff that I'm doing. So I see a bigger picture. And I think that's been the biggest thing for me. The limits came completely off. I was like, okay, you know, I've always kind of had this very boxed in thought to what this could look like. There's no box anymore. There's no container big enough to contain it at this point. And so I think when you get to that level, anything's possible.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, as we kind of have this conversation, I know there are a lot of speakers, and let's just talk candidly about this. There are a lot of I would say trainers, and a lot of people, what I've seen, because I keep hearing, nobody's doing this. And I said, I know, because this wasn't a good idea for me. This was a God idea. This is not something, you know, we wake up and say, you know what? I want to be a speaker. I didn't wake up thinking, oh, I'm going to train other women to build 6- and 7-figure business as a speaker. It wasn't. And it was more so, Dr. Saundra, it was, I wanted to really get in my purpose. I wanted to get in my calling. And I know a lot of folks call that cliche, but when you get in that place, knowing where you're supposed to be, you feel very, I wouldn't say comfortable. I'm uncomfortable being comfortable. Right?
That's good. Yes.
Yeah. Very uncomfortable being comfortable, more comfortable now. But when I first started doing it, because I saw all these people out here doing, you know, speaking and all of that, but they always wanted to share how to tell your story. And I just wanted to get your thoughts on, we went from, and I'm sure you probably know some of these names, they're telling you how to share your story and how to go out there and be a speaker. But one thing, Dr. Saundra, that I did not see, was people showing you how to get on those platforms. That for women, not just women that look like us, but for women, period. Because a lot of the events I went to, they were mostly men. They were mostly Caucasian men. And I would normally be the only female, let alone at a women's empowerment event. And I'm looking around like, what is he doing here? No offense. And I would always hear, well, we couldn't find any other women speakers. And I said, I set out on this mission because, again, it was a God idea. You need to help other women get to their next level. And I don't care what area they speak in, right? But the simple fact that they want to get there. So kind of talk to us about some of the other, we don't have to necessarily mention names, but you heard all these people that help you with your speaking business. What is the difference for Women Speaking Grow Rich and some of the things you've heard or seen?
Well, I've done that. You're probably my 4th coach. But not all with speaking, but I mean, I believe in edifying myself. I got to admit, I invested the most with you. Let's put it that way. And that's what it was. It was an investment, and I've far exceeded that investment. But I feel like I invested the most with you. But I had other coaches that I worked with along the way, and some of them were specifically on the speaking. And what they talked about was the delivery. You know, it was like how to speak. And honestly, at the time, that's what I needed. Because I didn't know how to present myself, you know, and I didn't know how to be confident in my own body and how to claim a stage and audience, you know, interaction. I needed that at the time. But then there's a season, particularly if you're someone who's already doing some speaking, where you have got to elevate your game a little bit to be able to hang with the people who are commanding $5,000, $7,000, $10,000, $15,000 on the stage. You can't show up with chicken dinner mentality and expect, you know, the $15,000 signing contract.
Right.
And so some of the things that just within our time together that really, to me, that stood out were things like how to find where to even pitch yourself, how to pitch yourself for speaking,
Yes, I love
how to
it.
stand out online as a speaker, how to make the first impression online, one that before they have even got you on the phone, they pretty much already know they want to sign you. They don't even know what you're asking for. So they just know that everything feels right because the page has what they need and it looks professional. To know how to even advertise. I didn't even know that was a thing.
Wow.
I didn't know that was a thing, that speakers could advertise. No one talks. Who talks about that?
Nobody.
I don't know anybody other than you that talks about that. Honestly, I don't know anybody who even talks about that. But this was next level stuff, the kind of stuff that businesses do. And that's when it really, I was like, this is a business. The thought that speakers need to protect themselves and have like a business name with separate tax stuff and attorneys and financial people. I mean, this is the kind of stuff people aren't teaching you. And so if you Google that, you're going to get a bunch of bits and pieces and you're probably going to put that puzzle together wrong. And so you need someone who's already done it. I mean, you can look at how you have progressed yourself to see that you've already done it. And I think it's helpful to sometimes, you don't necessarily want to feel like you are kind of attaching on to someone else, but you need someone to guide you places where you're in the dark end. And so that you've been that light for me. And I think for a lot of those of us who have been with you over the past few months, where we knew that there were some next steps, but it was so dark, we didn't know how to get on the steps. We were going to fall on our face if we even tried to go to the next steps. But we were, because you shined the light just enough so we didn't get frightened, you gave just enough light for the next step. So as we kept, okay, I'm gonna do this one thing. Oh, and then next week you're like, good God, I didn't even do that. Now she's asked me to do this. So now I better do that because now she's going to ask me something else. And so each week was kind of pulling us up higher and higher and higher. It's no doubt that, when we get together, it's win-win. You got all these women sharing their wins because it's like if you do the work, you can't help but go higher.
Right.
If you don't do the work, you're just going to stay on whatever level you're at. And I mean, who's to blame at that point if you're not doing the work? So there's a whole mindset shift that happened. And I love that you kind of started us with that.
Yeah,
you started us with that. And then you kept on. It's like a good coach.
Like I'm holding you
accountable.
accountable. Work. Yeah, for sure. Because let's be honest, in this of business, let's really think about some of the friends we have, some of the colleagues we have, associates, people that we watch that are on social media. When the stuff hits the fan and we're truthful about what we do and what we're called to do, let's be honest, a lot of folks are pretending, right? And for me, my conviction was I didn't want to be doing something and bringing folks in and I'm just at this level. And I remember sharing when I really started doing this probably 3-4 years ago that I wanted to always be like at a level where I can help pull some women up. I didn't want to be there by myself. Let me pull you up. Let me give you all the secrets. Because, let's be honest, when we get started with our business, I'm not sharing this. I'm not sharing this with anybody. And I was like, Lord, how many people can I share this with? How many women can I really help go from paycheck to paycheck? How many women can I help bring their spouses home? How many women can I have hang up their white coat and say, you know what? I want to do this full time because it's limitless right now of what I can do. Because you shared a couple of weeks ago that you had, I think it was about 3 contracts. They were 5 figures in those contracts. And knowing you in the right room, what did that do for you to know, okay, these are these 5 figures, but I also know what's going to happen in that room when I'm done after my 45 or 60-minute presentation?
Well, yeah, it makes all the difference because now when I show up, I'm not just thinking about, I got to give them everything I got to offer them in these 45 minutes of talking. Because when you're a speaker, you want to help people. That's the whole reason I do this. I feel I want to help people. Right. And so I'm trying to give them so much content. And, the content I'm giving is informational and transformational. Yeah. So if you're trying to hit people with life-changing information in 45 minutes, you're either going to hit some of them with the water hose so fast they can't even get a sip. You know what I mean? They're choking on all the information you've given them. So they can't move forward. They can't get anything from it because you just like, they're like, whoa, that, you know, that was a whole lot of good information, but they can't do anything with it. Right. When I realized that I just need to get them to, in that 45 minutes, give them some of the nuggets, but really focus on helping them see that there's a problem that needs to be fixed. Yes. And there are answers available if they're willing to take the next step. For sure. That's a mindset shift in how you speak as an informational speaker. Because a lot of informational speakers are just trying to give all the information during the talk without the thought process of, I need to connect with this audience, pull them into my sphere of influence, and then nurture a relationship. And I can also work with some of them one-on-one, as a group, or deeper. And I love that group aspect of it because you can reach so many more people. I did the one-on-one for a long time. And
we all did.
One-on-one is exhausting. You know, as a clinical physician, I did, but also in coaching, I did, you know, what we call professional coaching. Yes. So, you know, you're kind of hitting all aspects of their profession, professional coaching for time. And that's exhausting. Yes. That's exhausting. Yes. And you can only scale or get to such a certain level with that one-on-one professional coaching type setup. And if you feel like that you're meant to reach a larger number of people, then you have to get to the point where you're able to teach a larger number of people at the same time. For sure.
So Dr. Saundra, in this last couple of minutes as we close, if there is a woman that is listening to your story and she's sitting there thinking about, okay, she said a large number, what would you tell her about really investing at the next level in her speaking? And I would say even coaching business, because we cover some of those things as well. But what would you say to that woman that is listening to your story, listening to us right now, that may be on the fence about what's next, and is Women Speaking Grow Rich next for her?
It's a step of faith. I mean, it's going to be a step of faith. You're going to have to believe that that you are worth the investment, that your calling is worth the investment, and that the people you're serving is worth the investment. Because once you get to that level, that step of faith gets a whole lot easier. Yeah. Because the thing is, you don't know how the return on investment is going to be. You don't know. But if you're really looking at who you're investing in as a coach, you feel that connection, you're seeing it in action in their own life. It's much easier to invest in someone who you can see it lived out than where they're telling you what's happening and you see no evidence of it.
That's good.
You know, I long before I ever sat down in her class, you know, when most of the time when you have a speaker come, they put all that stuff out on the internet and you know who the speakers are. Long before I ever sat down in your class, I may not have known you like personally, but I knew of you and I could see evidence of what you were doing. I could do a Google search and have 1,000 things pop up about where you've been and where you spoke and what you do. And I could look at videos. If you're Googling a speaker coach, there's no talks anywhere to be found, no mentions of where they're speaking at in the past 5 years. You know, there's no evidence. There should be fruit following those who are productive. And so when you're seeing the fruit, all you then have got to do is taste and see for yourself. Because if you're not willing to taste and see, and that's the investment, then don't expect any additional fruit to come from that because you're not willing to put your part in.
For sure. Thank you so much for that. And I will, you know, kind of add on to that. I believe all of us have been called to something greater. And I also know that there is not just a story. So I don't want the ones that think, oh, I want to share my story. I want to share my story. But it's not just sharing your story. It's being able to share your story that is so impactful and influential to other people that they have this desire to hear more about you and what you have. And it's always been this thought. And I was just having a conversation with someone today that is, you know, taking that leap of faith like you did. And she said, I didn't know what to do when I finished speaking. And someone asked me, well, do you have a program or do you have a way to work with me? And I laughed because I always think back to us like, what do you mean? I just gave you 45 minutes of some good information. I laid it down. I helped you. And now everyone when they hear me talk about that, they understand there is so much more. We have been called for such a time as this. And especially as we're going into this new decade, not new year, but this is a whole new decade. There are going to be some women that are going to rise up like yourself and say, you know what? I know I've been working in this profession for 20 years, but I really have this passion, this pulling to help other people. And I know I can do it on someone's stage with a mic in my hand. I can do it on an interview. I can do it more on TV. I can do those things. And that's what I call the new rich. This is women speaking and growing rich. It is not just the richness of the monetary, but the richness of who we are and becoming the women we were meant to be. And so for all of you watching, Dr. Saundra, I thank you so much for allowing me to coach you over this time frame. And I just love seeing that big smile. You smile anyway, but you're smiling even brighter now, because it's like the freedom. You get to take back your freedom and spend time with your husband and your 2 boys and be able to serve people at a much higher level. And so I'm just truly honored that I was able to be a part of this next level speaking world for you. And I wish you all the best. Did you have any closing words that you want to share with anyone before we go?
No, I just want to thank you. Thank you for making the offer. I know that was a step of faith for you as well to kind of accept that call to help other speakers kind of go to their next level. And so thank you for that.
You're welcome. So for the speakers, coaches, thought leaders, and women who really know there's a passion, ladies, it's time to wake up, and it's time to not just wait on people to invite you to the table. It's time for you to create your own table. This is Dr. Saundra Stribling. I hope to see many of you at the top, especially at the top with Women Speak and Grow Rich.